before churches, before scriptures, before a single God ruled the sky. Humanity worshipped many gods. They lived in forests, rivers, mountains, fire, and the stars above. They demanded offerings, rituals, blood, song, and fear. This belief system had no single book, no single name. Today we call it paganism. But paganism was never one religion. It was humanity's first way of understanding the universe. And when new religions rose to power, these gods were not forgotten. They were demonized. Today, we uncover the true history of ancient paganism, the gods, the rituals, the sacrifices, and why the world tried so hard to erase them. The word pagan comes from the Latin paganus, meaning country dweller. Originally, it wasn't an insult. It described people who still followed old gods, long after cities adopted new faiths. Paganism had no central authority, no pope, no prophet. Instead, it was local, personal, and deeply tied to nature. Every culture had its own gods. The Greeks had Zeus, Athena, Hades. The Norse had Odin, Thor, Freya. The Celts worshipped forest spirits and war gods. The Romans absorbed gods from everywhere they conquered. If something had power, the sun, death, fertility, storms, it had a god. And these gods were not perfect. They lied, they loved, they punished, just like humans. Unlike later religions, pagan gods were dangerous. They did not promise forgiveness. They demanded respect. If crops failed, the gods were angry. If disease spread, the gods had to be appeased. If war was lost, someone had offended them. So people made offerings, food animals, precious objects, and sometimes human lives. Archaeology confirms ritual sacrifice across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Bodies buried in bogs, skulls placed beneath temples, bones marked with ceremonial cuts. These weren't murders, they were sacred acts. To pagans, sacrifice wasn't cruelty, it was survival. Pagans didn't need churches. Their temples were forests, stone circles, mountains, rivers. Stonehenge wasn't just a monument. It was a ritual calendar, aligned with the sun and solstices. Sacred groves were forbidden to cut or enter without permission. Some believed spirits would kill intruders. Water was holy. Wells and springs were believed to heal, curse, or reveal the future. To pagans, nature wasn't created by gods. Nature was divine. When paganism declined, it didn't disappear. It went underground. Old rituals survived as folk magic, herbal medicine, seasonal festivals. These practices later became known as witchcraft. Midwives, healers, and wise women carried pagan knowledge, plants, charms, protective symbols. But when Christianity spread, these traditions were labeled evil. Old gods became demons. Horned fertility gods became the devil. Goddesses of night and magic became witches. The old religion was rewritten as something to fear. Even today, paganism still shapes your life. Without realizing it, you celebrate pagan holidays. Yule became Christmas. Samhain became Halloween. Ostara influenced Easter. Decorations, rituals, dates, they were absorbed, not erased. The gods may have changed names, but the rituals survived. Paganism threatened control. It taught. No single authority, no holy book, no fixed truth power couldn't centralize around it, so it had to be destroyed. Temples were burned, statues smashed, priests executed, stories rewritten. By the Middle Ages, paganism wasn't just wrong. It was evil. But something survived. Because belief doesn't die easily. Today, paganism is returning. Modern pagans worship old gods, nature, balance, ancestral spirits, not as superstition, but as identity. For some, it's spiritual, for others, cultural. The old gods are being remembered, not as monsters, but as reflections of humanity's earliest fears and hopes. Pagan gods were never destroyed. They were buried, hidden, renamed. But every storm, every ritual, every ancient symbol, they remind us of a time when humans feared the world and worshipped it. History doesn't vanish. It waits to be remembered. If you enjoyed this journey into forgotten belief systems, subscribe to Past Tense for more strange, dark, and hidden history. Because the past is never really past.